former New York Congressman Anthony Weiner, who was forced to resign after sending out a lewd picture of himself on Twitter, has announced that he is considering a run for New York City mayor. According to an interview in the New York Times Magazine, Weiner's political committee has already spent more than $100,000 on polling and research. The polling showed that New Yorkers were willing to forgive his 2011 misdeeds, but voters also wanted to know what the disgraced congressman has done to get over his scandalous past. In the interview, Weiner said, "I don't have this burning, overriding desire to go out and run for office. I'm not the single animating force in my life as it was for quite some time. But I do recognize to some degree it's now or maybe never for me in terms of running for something. I'm trying to gauge not only what's right and what feels comfortable right this second, but I'm also thinking, how will I feel in a year or 2 years or 5 years? Is this the time that I should be doing it?" And then there's the other side of the coin, which is, am I still the same person who I thought would make a good mayor? Zach, he spent $100,000 on polling, and I have no doubt that some of what we just heard is messaging that came out of that.
This is very silly. You don't spend $100,000 gathering information if you haven't made up your mind yet. It's totally bizarre. I think it's very clear that he wants to run for mayor, and he wants to tell people that he feels like he's made a mistake and he's turned a corner and he's moving. He's going to be a better representative for the people of New York than he was in 2011. And I mean, it seems like the people of New York were always willing to forgive him. The real pressure on Anthony Weiner after the big scandal was mostly coming from inside the Beltway from the Democratic Party leadership, who just wanted him to get out of town. For the most part, when you have one of these horrible scandals breaks, if you just don't resign, you weather the storm after a couple of years. It just blows over, especially in a very liberal district like Anthony Weiner represented in New York. It's not at all obvious to me that he would have actually been forced out of office had he not been pushed out by the Democratic Party leadership. And I think the people of New York will probably be interested, at least, in a candidacy, although I think he'll have a harder time winning a mayoral election than he would a congressional election.
This is from New York Magazine, our friends there, and it's the series that they were doing on reflecting on childhood in New York City. And here you have Anthony Weiner talking about his childhood, saying it was like a reformed Jewish version of the Sharks and the Jets. He is clearly wanting to be back in the mix.
People who run for office and are very good at being in office, at least cultivating a public image of being in office. I mean, Anthony Weiner was one of the most outspoken progressives in the early years of the Obama administration. And he put on a very good face for the progressive movement, which is why I think progressives were really, really upset when the scandal broke. That never leaves. It's like musicians, the band breaks up, but they still have to play in some crappy second band or third band afterwards. The spark just never fades. So I'm sure he wants to get in some sort of elected office, and whether the mayoral race is the right one for him or not, we'll see what the voters of New York think. But it's very clear to me that he wants to get back in the game.